Hello everyone, welcome to this presentation. As you know, my name is Philip Edu. I'm one of the methodology experts, and I just want to give you a brief information about NVivo. It's one of the qualitative software that you can use for your study. And as you know, this is an introduction. So this means that I'm going to make it such a way that if you are new to the software, you'll be able to, understand, get a big picture, and also going to provide you some resources that you could use for you to be able to successfully analyze your qualitative data. So as I said, NVivo is one of the qualitative software that you could use for your analysis. So there are I think there are five basic functions of NVivo. So you can import your data, you can explore your data, and learn more about your data before you do the analysis. You can analyze by assigning labels to significant information that you identify in the um, data, right? And then you can also visualize. You can develop graphs. You can develop illustrations for you to help to present your findings so that your findings will be colorful at the same time clear to your audience. And you can also export all the results. And I'm going to show you how to do all these things. So as I said, this is a basic presentation. I will start this presentation by talking about qualitative analysis, right? I just have to define what qualitative analysis is all about, or talk about qualitative analysis. And I'm going
Again,
to,
entonces,
also, um, I have to mute. Let me see what I can mute. I'm resuming the recording. Okay. Sorry about the break. I just want to make sure that I've muted everyone so that I cannot get any background noise. So I'm going to talk about coding and also categorization of your data or your code that you have developed, and also talk briefly about using the software and also how to present your findings. So what is qualitative analysis? So qualitative analysis is just summarizing your data. So let's say you collected data from about 10 participants, you interview them, and you have a lot of information. You cannot just present that information to your audience, right? It's going to take a long time, and it's going to be boring for you to tell your audience everything that you receive from participants. So as a qualitative researcher, what do? You reduce the data, right? So it's all about data reduction. And it should be a systematic process. You cannot just say, oh, I looked through the data and these are the things that I got, right? If you do that, nobody will believe what you got, right? Because when it comes to qualitative analysis, is more of subjective process, right? And you have to be systematic. So you get your data, you clean your data, you go through each of participant responses to each of your interview questions, you identify significant information, you assign labels to them. That's all about coding. And then you categorize the codes and then develop themes. So at the end of the day, because it's a systematic process, the themes that you're going to develop will represent the data that you have. And you are moving from specific information that you receive from participants to abstract information. But the abstract is representing the specific information that you got from participant, right? So there should be a connection between the themes and then what participants said, right? So that's why when you are presenting the findings, sometimes you have to quote participants to support the themes that you have. And it's also a way of, creating a story, right? Participants are giving you their stories and you want to bring all of them together and tell one story. The story should represent participant stories, right? And lastly, you can also develop a theory. The theory is just developing an explanation to represent participant information that you collected. So you've in developing a theory, when you reach themes, you find out whether the similarities between the themes, and then based on that, you can develop an explanation or a model to explain participant um, responses to your interview questions and address your research questions too. So coding is a subset of qualitative analysis, right? So qualitative analysis is like a big analyzing the data. Coding is where you go through the data, whether it's interview transcript, it's a document or artifact or field note, and try to identify significant information. How are you going to identify the significant information? Your research question, right? Based on the research question, you go through and say, oh, I think what I found here is very significant. Can I label it? You use words to label or to represent those significant information. So that is coding. Coding is assigning labels to relevant information that you get from the data. Right. And in doing so, you come up with a lot of codes, and then you can start thinking about how do I categorize the code to get categories or develop themes. So that's how you're going to do. And another thing that you have to think about is, okay, so how do I develop the code? So this book by Sandana, the Coding Manual for Qualitative Researchers, is a very good book, and it has about 32 coding methods, and these four are mostly used by qualitative researchers. So in order to help you develop a label for your significant information, you can choose from these coding methods. So process coding, let's say you want to capture participant behavior that they have described, right? Then you can use process coding. Okay, when I wake up in the morning, I start walking. So maybe walking could be a code representing the activities, one of the activities that the person does in the morning, right? So process coding, you are capturing a process, you are capturing a behavior, you are capturing an action. So if your research question, the main purpose of your research question is capturing an action, a behavior, a process, then you can use a process coding. You can also use theming data, right? Theming data is just identifying underlying meaning of the significant information that you have identified and using phrases to represent those significant information. Right, that's the theming data. And emotion coding. Let's say you want to capture participant emotions, right? Let's say you are interviewing participant and say, I don't know, I don't have any hope in life. I'm very anxious. I don't know what to do. There's nothing good is going to happen. You see, based on that information, you can capture their emotions, hopelessness, anxiety, pessimistic, or the person is in the denial, trying to capture their feelings, reactions, and excitement about an issue or about an experience. And you can also use NVivo coding. NVivo coding is to use participant own words to develop the code. So if the person say, never again, I'm not going to do this anymore. You can use never again as a code. So NVivo coding. So you can use one of the coding methods to do your coding, or you can use multiple. You always ask yourself, which coding strategy can help me to develop a label to best represent participant response or best represent the significant information I've identified in the data, right? So that's how you're going to help develop the code. The reason why you have to choose a coding method is to help you in the second stage when you reach a categorization, because you used identify specific coding method. The codes maybe the constructions of the codes are similar. Because they are similar, it's very difficult for you to compare and then categorize the code. So that's why you have to be it's always advisable to choose a coding method or coding methods for your analysis. So after you finish your coding, what do? You try to see the similarities among the code that you have developed, and then based on that, you can group them into various categories, right? What is the underlying meaning, right? Are they a group of codes making reference to something that you can group them together? And always think about your research question, because you are developing codes, themes, and categories to address your research question. So let's see your research question drive the analysis. Because if you don't do that, at the end of the day, you may not be able to address your research question, although you have developed very good codes, right? So, oh, I have these themes, and people are going to ask, what about your research question? How are these themes addressing your research question that you have? So you always have to think about that as you are coding and categorizing your data. So I have a short video here that I did. So when you have access to the PowerPoint, you can click on the link here and you'll be able to access that and see how you could code. So one of the strategies that you can use, we call a sorting strategy. What you are doing is just sorting, right, based on the similarities. First, you can start by identifying a dominant code based on the frequency. Frequency is how many times you assign a specific code to a significant information you have identified. So let's say you have about 10 codes, and one of them you assigned 15 significant information to a particular code. That code can be a dominant code, right? So when you identify about one or two dominant code, and then you see, okay, based on this dominant code, how is this code related to other codes? And based on that, you can start sorting them and putting them based on how they are related. And this presentation will give you more information about that. Let me stop here and find out whether you have questions for me. I always love to hear from you. Any question before I continue? Let me open. I can open for you to talk if you want to talk, or you can type in your question. Anything? Okay, so if there's no question, I can continue. But am I making sense? I just want to be sure. I don't want to be talking, and okay. So let me mute all of you and just continue the process. Okay. So after categorization, I just want to talk about NVivo, right? So when you have your data, you want to analyze, you have two options. You can do a manual coding, right, where you don't use any software. You can, print out your transcript and write on it and develop code, identify information, and then circle and then write the code on them. Or you can write them on index cards. Another option is to do the manual coding using Microsoft Word document. And I have a presentation on that. If you want to do manual coding, you can email me. I'll send you the link to the presentation on how to do manual coding. And you only do manual. I always advise students, if you want to do manual coding, then always look, if your research, if your data is not a lot, then manual coding will be the best, right? But if you have a lot of data, like you have 10 participants and each of the transcript you have about 4, 5, 6 pages for each, then I will advise you to use a software. So The software is not like cannot automatically code your data for you. Although we have auto coding, but it's just organizing your participants' significant information. It's not going to assign labels to them. So the software just helps you in your organization. So you identify significant information, you assign labels to them, and it will be able to organize it and count the number of code that you have and the number of frequencies, like how many times the code is assigned to a specific information. So in terms of organization, it will save your time. So that's why I recommend using a software if you have a lot of data, right? So the first thing that you have to think about is you have to start, cleaning your data. You clean your data in terms of taking any kind of identifiable information from the transcript. You don't use their names. You can use the assign maybe codes to them, and you can put everything in on Word document and then send everything to NVivo system, and then you can explore the data and see what is really going on. So, as I said, I think at the beginning I told you about the 5 things NVivo can do. You can explore the data, analyze, visualize, and export. So, the first stage, right? So, what do you do after you have gotten your data? You clean your data, right? You make it ready. You can have it in Excel spreadsheet, or you can make it, or you can have it on Word document. And you have option here. You can even upload the audios, right? And if you have a video, if you have pictures, you can upload. If you have memos, your reflections, you can upload. If you have a survey, and that if the survey are open-ended surveys, you can upload and analyze that information there. If it's in PDF, you can do that. If it's in Word document, you can do that. And if you have a social media data, there's a way of doing that. And I did a presentation on that. So if you want to analyze the social media data, let me know. I can send you a video on how to upload that information. We have a software, inbuilt software called in Capture, and that's what you're going to use to upload. Let's say you want to analyze Twitter information or analyze Facebook information. You can upload that information through the system and analyze. Okay, so I think there's a question coming in. Let me give a chance to Dr. Glazik.
Yes, so the question is, can you upload audio files of interviews, or do you recommend first having them transcribed?
I always recommend transcribing it because you can do a lot on that if the information is transcribed. You can do some, especially when you reach explore, you reach a stage where you want to explore the data. You can run the number of words that the participant use, the kind of words that they use, how many times, and that will give you a big picture of your data. So always transcribe your data before you upload that information to the system. But you could also analyze audios, right? You can upload audios and analyze. But if you want to get more information or quality results, it makes sense for you to transcribe it first and then before you upload that information. Any other question? I think if not, you're welcome. Okay, so the next one that, let me go back again, change it here. Okay, so let's go to explore, right? Now you have uploaded all your information to the system. What do you have to do? You click on query. Normally before you analyze your data, based on the recommendation of qualitative researchers, you have to read the transcript. All the transcript before you analyze, just to get a big picture about participant response. It gives you an idea about, okay, what kind of code should I use? What is really going on in the big picture? For you to learn more about. So after you have read through, there's also a way that you can use the system, the software to do learn more about your data before you start the analysis. One is word frequency. Word frequency option or the command is used to tell you how many times a specific word was used, right, by a participant. If the specific word is used many times, this means that maybe they are talking about something that is very important. It just draw your attention, right? Um, and the word search is where you identify a word and then you want to learn more about it in terms of how they use the word. So when you search for the word, you get an option to display a word tree. A word tree will give you the words before the word that you are looking for and the words after before the word that you are looking for. I'll show you how the word tree looks like. But I just wanted to let you know that you can learn more about the kinds of words that participants use by using word tree, word frequency command, and also word search command. So as you can see here, when you run word frequency, this is an option that you can get. This is an output that you can get. So as you can see here, the bigger the font, right, the frequency, the higher the number of times that participants make reference to, right? So this was the data from one of our surveys that we sent to students to find out what they think about our consultations. And you can see that most of the students were emphasizing of knowledgeable. Maybe we are knowledgeable about what we talk about, or they think that we we are an expert. We are aspects of the area that the methodology that we provide support to students. So this gives you an idea that, okay, most of the students are making reference to the fact that we are knowledgeable, right? And this is not the findings, but it's giving you a big picture about the things that participants talk about. They talk about understanding. We don't know what they mean by understand, right? What is the context? This is where you do a word search and you search for the word understand in the data, and then to give you a sentence before, like words before and after that information. So this one, we wanted to know more about knowledge. So we did test search, right? You search for the word, right? And then we found the words before and after, right? So that's how you could do. Because of time, I cannot go through everything. Through step by step, I have a lot of videos on the PowerPoint that you can click on it to learn. But I can quickly do the word frequency for you to see how it is done. So you click on query and you go to frequency, and then you have an option to find the source. Where do you want the system? What kind of data do you want to run the frequency on? So I just want to know more about, let's say, participant responses, open responses to these questions, right? Open-ended responses. So I click on OK, and then it will ask you, do you want the exact words count or you want synonyms or other ones? So normally I bring it under synonyms so that it can. So let's say if they are searching for talk, it will also add talk. They will count talk and speak as one, right? So that will help you to not have a lot of words that are similar count. So you have everything in one. So after that, you click on run. And this is what you're going to get. So you can see that, let me pull this one here a little bit. You can see here that when we go up, participants talk about students 49 times. They talk about NK 28 times. They talk about time 27 times, right? And then when you click here, you can see that it gives you the word tree. And then if you can pull it up so that you can see it clearly by right click it on that. So you can pull it up here and you can see it clearly. And then what you have to do is go back to the click here, and then you can see the word cloud. If you don't want, they have a lot of options for you. You can click on the options that you have, and that will give you a big picture of the kind of word they use. So they use a lot of time. They use student, they talk about NK, they talk about time. And let's say you want to know what exactly did they talk about in terms of time, right? This is where you search for the word, right? So how do you search for it? You go back to, you can close this one, you go back to query, you can text search, and I'm searching for time. What did they say about time? And I click on the item or the data that you want the system to run. So I look for the data that these are open-ended responses, and then click on OK, and then bring it to synonyms and click on run, and then you can click on word 3. Before you can click on word 3, you can take the window out by right clicking on this here and click on undock, sorry, and then you click on the word tree, and so this is what you're going to get. So this one gives you information. Okay, what are the sentences before and after? So when you click on it, you can see that, okay, these are the sentences. You can read it and know the context, how they use the word tie. And if you want more words before and after too, you can click here and then increase the words before and after, so that you can read and see how they use it. So this is a very big way of learning more about your data. Remember, this is not a coding. It's a way of getting a big picture of your data before you start the coding process. So now I understand how they use the time, right? You click on it to see how the time was used. So these are the ways of learning more, exploring and learning more about your data before you do the analysis. As I said, I have presentation on this, so I don't want to waste a lot of time on explaining. But if you get stuck somewhere, please let me know. We can meet and have more discussion about your analysis. We are always there to help. So after you have explored and you've gotten a big picture in terms of the kinds of words that they are using, then you move to the coding, the main analysis is the coding. As I said, coding is all about identifying significant information and assign labels to them, right? Coding. But you have to learn some terms that they use in the system, right? They don't normally use code, they use nodes, right? So the nodes are just containers. Just think about it this way. You have identified significant information. Then instead of assigning labels to them, first you drop them into a specific container and then you label it. Got it? So nodes are just containers that have significant information, where you drop the significant information. And codes are labels that you give to the containers. Got it? So nodes are containers, codes are the labels you give. So when you want to use this system, and sometimes you may use the words interchangeably. Sometimes people say, okay, these are codes. Yeah, it makes sense. They are codes because they house significant information that from the data, but the codes, they are labels, right? So you can use it interchangeably. You can call these nodes or code, right? But specifically, what you're doing is think about nodes as containers. So when you create a container, you look through your data, you drop significant information, and then you label the container based on the content of the significant or the content in the container. Right. And then In a normal situation, we have codes and categories. For the system, the NVivo, they call codes and categories child nodes, and the themes will be parent node, right? So you can see that these are all child nodes. When you group them, you form a parent node. So you can have a category under any category or code under a main code. That category or the code will be called a child node. And then the theme will be a parent node. So that's the term that they use in the system. So this you have to understand this one before you start using the software. So the next one is, how do you create nodes? So it's so simple. You go to the system, you click on create, and then you click on node, right? And then when you click on that, you label the container. And then before you drop the significant information into it. Let me give you an example. So I have my data here. Let's assume, where can I get the data to work on? Okay, so I have my data here, right? And then I just want to do the coding. I think this one not a good example. Let me find another one provide. Okay, I think this one will be better. Okay, perfect. So you have your data here and you just want to code, right? You want to assign levels to them. Your first option is to go to create. You click on node, right? And then you type the label you want to. So this, look at this as container, and the label will be the code, right? So what code are you going to use? Before you do that, you have already identified something here that you think is significant that you want to label that, right? So let's assume you have identified something here, right? And then before you drop it into the node, you haven't created a node yet. If there was an existing node, you can just highlight and drop it, right? But you don't have the node yet. So what do you do? First option is to go to create. You click on that, and then you label the container. So that might be, let's assume, let's type something like, um, let's create a label. I'm just making things up here. Let's say for this survey, we ask participants to find out their perception about NCAID and also the services that we provide. So maybe they said the service is useful, right? So you can say useful service. So that will be a code, right? So you now have labeled a container. Then you can click on OK. So when you click on OK, you can say I've created a container here called useful service, right? Then you see that reference means that the number of times you drop significant information there. We haven't dropped any significant. That's why reference is 0. Source is the location of that information, right? Is it from one source or multiple source? And that will also indicate here. But what we are interested in is the frequency, how many times, right? So let's assume that the participant here was talking about useful service that we provide. We are just assuming because of time, we don't want to analyze the content, right? So you highlight that and then drop it, move it, and drop it here. So you see when I drop it, the reference is now 1, right? Because I've dropped significant information to this container. So I go through again and I found there's something else that I also talked about useful service. You highlight and you drop. You see that the reference is 2. So this means that you have identified 2 significant information that are related to useful services, and then I drop that information there. So that's all about coding. You go to your data. if, let's say, this information is significant but has nothing to do with useful services or service, so what should I do? I create a new node, right? By going to create, type on it, and then create another one, right? Maybe limited consultation time. Maybe they are talking about the fact that the consultation, that time that we give to students are very limited. So they maybe are concerned about that, right? So that would be another code, right? And then you click on OK. So you see that it's here. Here, there's no information there. This is where you identify that you select and drop it in there. The same thing. So you go through the data. If the significant information that you have identified has nothing to do with the containers that you have already created, you create a new container. So that's all about coding. Then after that, you do the categorization. So as you can see here, I coded everything based on the research question. So I have 3 research questions. So what I did was I create a big container, right, for each of the research questions. So I think I have 4 research questions. So I can see that research question 1 talks about student progress impact, right? Then I created the containers for the research question, and then under each of the research question, I created small containers that are related to the research question, and then I drop significant information into them. If it's confusing to you, don't worry. There are videos there that I've made that can help you. But the essence is to organize the code based on a research question so that at the end of the day, you'll be able to address the research question that you have. Right. So I first label my research question and then create a node, a big node here. And then after that, I created node under the research question and then put significant information to them. That's all about coding. Assign labels, you first have to create node, label your node, and look for information that are relevant and drop them into the system. So at the end of the day, when you double click a specific node, it will show the significant information that you would drop into. So let's say you open the container. I just want to see what is in the container, right? And then we open and you see, okay, these are the significant information you drop into the container. Right. So you can go back after analysis, you can go back and go through okay, based on the significant information, maybe the label doesn't best reflect the significant information here. You can go back and change the name of the label, the code that you gave to the information, right? It's so easy. You can click on it, you click on it once, and you can make changes, can delete and type in what you want to type, right, to reflect the information that you have there, right? So you always have the chance to go back again and make some changes. If you change your mind or the content doesn't really represent the information here, you can go back and review and make changes to that label. And that's why this software is very good compared to doing things manually, right? You can go back and change the label if you want to change, right? And you can easily see the number of times a significant information has been assigned to a specific node, right? Okay, so we can move on. I think the tab is running out. No, I don't want to close this one. Okay. Any question? Let me see whether there's question coming. Or if you want to talk, I can give you the chance to talk. I've opened the microphone. You can speak if you want to. I just want to hear from you. So, any question? Okay. there's no question, then I can mute everyone and move on. Okay. So we finished with how to create node and assign labels to them and drop significant information. As I said, this short video can help you to learn more about how to do it. So after you have done the coding process, what next? You have to categorize, right? We call it sorting. I think I've already told you about sorting. And this video also gives you more information about how to sort in the system. So the sorting, in this case, you can first create clusters, right? So you can create maybe about 5 clusters in there. How do you create clusters? It's the same process. So the same process of how you create codes, right? So let's say, you wanna to start a category, and you go to create, you go to node, and then you can say cluster 1. And then you also always have to create aggregate, so that when you bring a child node under the cluster, everything will add up. The references will add up, and you can get a total reference. So I always check this one and click on OK. So you can have start with 5 clusters, and then you can go through your the data that the code that you have created and drop them into the various classes based on the similarities, right? So think about it this way: you are creating a big container so that you can drop the other codes or the small containers into the big containers and label it based on the content of the big container. Right. So you create cluster 1, cluster 2, cluster 3, maybe cluster 5, and then you go through your codes on the nodes that you have created, and then if you think that one node is similar to the other, you can just, it's a way of dragging. You highlight, you drag, and then you drop it into that. So let's say you want to drop this one in cluster 1, you can just click on it to highlight it and move to the left, and then you drop it. So that's how you do the category. Put them into clusters. And as I said, this video will help you to do that. So what next? After you have done your class, putting them into categories, you can also label them. So cluster 1, based on the content, you can change the name cluster 1 to the specific name or label that will represent the information you have dropped in, or the child node that you have dropped into the cluster. So based on the content of the cluster, you can label that. So after you have developed themes or categories, maybe you want to start writing your results, right? So you can think about visualizing your data. So how do you do that? You can go to Explore, you can use project map or comparison diagram to do that, and this video can help you to do that for you. So as you can see here, let me go back. This is an outcome of a project map, right? So let's say you want to know more about a specific participant, maybe participant 2, as you can see here. Let me make it bigger here so that you can see. Let's say I want to know more about participant 2, right? So I use the project map, and then bring other things that are connected to participant 2. So I can see that participant 2, one of the codes that are connected to participant 2 is this one, right? And also it's connected to the research question 1, and this is the profile of participant 2. Participant 2 has 2-year experience of providing support to students as a dissertation chair. The participant 2 is our online campus. And so this you can, let's say you want to talk about a specific participant, you can do a diagram, right, like this one, and then show it to your audience, right? And this will capture the profile of participant and also what kind of nodes or what kind of themes that are connected to this participant, right? And the videos, as I said, would help you that I have. Because of time, I cannot go through everything, but just to let you know that you can do this if you want to know more about each of the participants and also the kind of codes that that are connected to them. I think there's a question coming, right?
Yes, yes. So the question is, can you determine relationships between clusters based on the frequency of underlying data occurring in multiple nodes or clusters?
Oh yes, you'll be able to determine the relationship between that. There's you can use a comparison diagram option to do that. Sometimes you can just manually click on the variable, the item, the cluster, and get the content of that. You can also compare by looking at the frequency, how many times significant information will drop into that content or that node. Based on that, you'll be able to do the comparison. Um, I can do something quick here. So you can click on comparison diagram, and let's say you want to compare nodes, right? So you click on that, and then what I want to do is I go to where my nodes are, and I just want to compare two specific information, maybe um, this one, this node, and that node. Let's say we want to compare two nodes. In terms of the comparison diagram, you can only compare two nodes. You cannot compare more than two things, right? So I'm comparing this node. You see how it's highlighted with yellow background, and this one. So you can see that for this team and that team, they have something in common. It came from participant 3. You can see that participant 3 information contain this team and that team. So you ask yourself, what did this team have in common? The participant information here was connected to these two themes, right? And you can also see that they are from one source. They are from the Excel spreadsheet that I uploaded into the system, right? But the thing that they don't have in common is this one. So you can see participants 6 and 2 are connected to this team, but they are not connected to that team. Participant 4 is only connected to, so you can see the similarities and differences just doing this. If this one makes sense to you, then you present it to your audience. If it doesn't make sense to you, if it's not adding any additional knowledge or information to your research question, you don't have to present that information. The fact that there are diagrams here doesn't mean that you should use it if it's not making sense to you or your audience, right? And another option that you have is you can also compare participant. So let me cancel this one and go to explore and go to this one and kind of compare cases. Cases are information about each participant are there. So you click on that, go here. I want to compare participant 1 with participant 5. You click on OK, and then you get this information. It looks a little bit small, so what you can do, you can right click here and undock so that it can pop out, and then you can increase the size a little bit here. There's a lot of things are going on here. You can see that participant 1 and 15 and 5, they have these in common. These themes are in common, right? So you can see what they have in common and what they don't have in common. So you can see these themes that are linked to participant 1, but they are not linked to participant 5. And these themes are linked to participant 5, but they are not linked to participant. So you'll be able to compare and contrast based on this information. Another last option that I want to show you, let me close this one, is when you go to explore and you go to, you can create a project map. Let's say I want to learn more about participant A1, right? I just want to learn more about participant A1. So you create a project for them, and then you click on add item and you look for the case that you are interested in. I'm interested in participant A1. I click on OK, and then that information comes here. What do you do next? Let me pull this one here. And you right click on that and then show associated items. And then the attribute values are demographic information. So whenever you see attributes, it means it's related to demographic, participant demographic information. So you click on that, you go down here, and these are the questions that we ask participants concerning their background. You can double click on some of them, and then it will come here. So we can see that the person is an associate professor. And then in terms of campus that they are affiliated with, they are in Chicago campus. And then let's say maybe you want to learn more how long they have been in the they've been as a dissertation chair for 7 years. So you see how I've gotten some profile of participant A, right? And if you want to also know what kind of nodes or themes were connected to participant A, you go to node, you click on open-ended responses where you can get the low node. Let me go down here, and then this one is you click on the arrow so that it can bring it drop down menu, and then you can double click the last one. You can see that participant A is linked to this node or this theme, right? So let's say you are discussing this theme, you can show this diagram to just talk about the fact that okay, so maybe participant A1 you can quote participant A1 and then talk more about that participant, right? So, and in terms of the diagram, you can make changes to it if it doesn't look good. You have options here that you can use so to make it presentable, right? And then you can see here that if you want to know the content, remember that this is a node, right? It's a parent node, it's one of the nodes. And if you want to know what is in this node, you can double click that and it will take you to this place and you know the content, right? This is where you can use some of them to when you are writing your results, you can use some as a way of evidence. So participant A1 said this, right? So you can copy and just paste it on your document to support the theme that you are discussing, right? So there are a lot of things that you can do here, but because of time, I might not be able to go through everything. But the good thing is that I have a lot of presentation on these things, to be very helpful. I think there's a question coming here.
Yes, if we want to use NVivo, is there a Chicago school license or do we need to purchase a license directly from them?
So for Chicago school, it's limited. You can only access NVivo when you go to the physical campus. Let's say when you go to Chicago, you go to LA, there are some computers that they have the software on. But for convenience, I always advise students you can buy your own software. It's just around $120 for student version, and you can use it for your dissertation work. So I always recommend that you buy your own and use it instead of going to the campus and using and come back and go there again. You may lose your information or something like that. So it's always advisable to have your own software. So time is getting there, but let me see what I can quickly go through and then so okay, so the next one is to export your data. How do you export? It's so simple. You can, let's say you want to export a list of all the codes, right? So let me close this one, close that one. So let's say you have all your codes here. So you click on the one of the nodes, right? And then you have export. And you can export it as on a Word document, or you can export it as Excel spreadsheet, right? So you click on export list, and then you click on OK, and then when you go to where you save that information, you double click that, and you can have a list of all the node that you develop and also the sub nodes, the parent node and the child node. So you can see that it's showing only the research questions as a node, but when you click on the plus, the information, the nodes comes under, right? So you can click on it, you have a list of all, and now you can see the frequency, how many times the significant information is dropped. There are other ways of exporting your data. My previous presentation talks about that. So because of time, I will not be able to show you all of the options. But another thing that I want to show you is you can have a matrix. We call it framework matrix, right? So the framework matrix will help you to get all the main themes, right? A table with all the main themes and also all the participants and the significant information that was dropped into the main theme but connected to each of the participants. And when you create that matrix, you can export that matrix and you can use it as you are writing your themes. You can look at all the significant information, and then it's easy way of summarizing what you did, right? So let me do it as a last thing that I can do today. So you go to source. You can see here that it's framework matrix is here. You click on that, and this space, you right click this space and click on new framework matrix, and let's give it a name. So I will just type name. You can give it any name that you want. And then you click on row, and then it's just asking you what information do you want under row. So you want participant information, that's the cases. So I check all participants. I have 6 participants, check all of them and bring them here. And then I go to select for the, I click on column and then bring all the themes that I'm interested in, the main themes. So you click on the node and you go here, and let's say I want to make a framework matrix for only research question 1, right? For the main theme. So I have 3 main themes. I check only the 3 main themes and then click on OK. And then click on OK here. So this is what you're going to get. And it looks like there's a lot going on here. So what you're going to do is right click here to undock. And then you can see that there's no information here. But the PowerPoint says that the significant information should be loaded. So how do you make the significant information loaded? You click on Auto Summary. And then, there we go. You have so these are 3 teams, and these are You can see the participant 1, A1, A2 for the role. So you can see the participant 3, only the third team was coded. Information, his or her information was dropped into the third team. And this is the significant information, right? So you can export this information and that will help you in your writing of your results. You can see that, okay, for these themes, these are the significant information that you can easily see where the information is coming from participant A, participant B, participant A1, A2, or A3, right? So to export, you right click on it and click here, export matrix, and then you can give a name to it. I'll just type name. You can give any kind of name and click on OK. And then when you go back to your document, let me see. Okay, I click on that, and you see how you have the list of all participants and the themes and the significant information you drop in there, right? So this is going to be helpful for you when you are writing your results. You can easily refer to it and then know who said what and what kind of theme was connected. So this is how you can do the framework metrics and export. Let's see. I think I'm almost done. Let's see. Okay, so you export. I've talked about export, and also lastly, you could present your findings. How do you present your findings? I have an hour presentation on how to present your findings. People want to know a brief information about what you're going to talk about. That's overview, right? Secondly, they want to know the characteristics of participant. Who did you talk to? What are their background, right? Age, gender, maybe educational level. You can present that information. Then people want to know how did you analyze your data step by step? How did you move from identifying significant information to developing themes? And this place is very important because if you cannot discuss how you analyze your data, people are not going to believe your findings, right? So then after that, you talk about the themes and then explain what the themes are, and then you can quote participant to support, and then you do your summary. And as I said, this presentation that I'm showing here will be very helpful for you if you are writing your findings and you want to learn more about what to talk about. So this is what I have for you. Any question? I'm sorry that I've gone beyond the time. Any question for me? Okay, so I've opened you can speak if you want to. Any question? So if not, I don't want to waste a lot of your time. Thank you for your time. And I just want to let you know that I'll be uploading the this information onto our YouTube channel. So please, if you haven't subscribed to our channel, you can do that. And you can just go to type YouTube and then you can search for NCADE. Search for NCADE, and then we have all our videos there. You can subscribe, and I'll be uploading that information, this presentation. So thank you so much for your time, and I will see you another time. And thank you, Dr. Glazik. I think there's a question coming.
Yeah, but it's about sample size, and she's
Okay.
gonna email us.
Okay, perfect. So thank you, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day then. Bye.